The internet is under attack, and this attack is about data. These wars are being fought over data, your data. So what about it? Well, what about its privacy? There is a privacy issue. Are you being asked every time your data is used? Is anyone asking you about that? And what about all the antitrust going on? What about all the companies that are monopolizing businesses and acting in an anti-competitive manner? And finally, what about discriminatory practices? People are discriminating by targeting advertisements. Targeted ads are by their very nature discriminatory. You can choose who to include and who to exclude. That's discrimination and needs to be handled very carefully. What about the regulators now? What do the regulators actually want? What do governments want out of all this? Well, they say they want us to have control of our own data. They say they want to stop all this anti-competitive, all this monopolistic, all this bad behaviour on the internet. They want to stop all this. They want to stop all these discriminatory practices. They want to stop people being discriminated against on the internet. Oh, and by the way, they also want all your data. What do the companies want? Well, they want access to your data to be able to sell it to the highest bidder and increase their profits. They don't care who they sell it to, just as long as they can sell it. They don't care what it's used for once they've sold it, just as long as they make their profits. They don't care if they discriminate against people. They don't care. They just want to make profit. They don't check on the use of the data to which the data is put. They just sell it. They create a very detailed profile of every user. They know as much about you. They go out of their way to find out as much as they can about you. You see all these online quizzes and all these tests and all the rest of it. You see all this, oh yeah, I can answer that. Those are all personality tests. All that information is recorded against you. There are extensive databases, all containing information about every one of us. Don't worry about Big Brother. Big Brother is already here, and its name is Facebook. How do we know this? How do we know about all these things? Well, let me tell you about the Android operating system. The Android operating system is now the biggest operating system in the world. It's on 2.5 billion mobile devices. 2.5 billion. That's 80% of the world's mobile devices run Android. That's Google's Android. All the information, all the data you transmit when you use those phones, it's all done within the Google Android operating system. That's an awful lot of data you're giving them. Let's think about Facebook. 2 billion users, 2 billion plus users at any one time, I understand. 2 billion users. They have detailed information on you. They know your shoe size. They know what colour of socks you like to wear. They know where you buy your clothes, which doctor you use, which dentist you use, which hairdresser you use. They know what car you drive. They know which house you live in. They know how much your house is worth. They know how much you're worth. They know what salary band you're in. They know whether you have kids. They know which schools your kids go to and how much the school fees are. They know everything about you. Did you know they also have facial recognition? Did you know that they scan every photograph? And if someone posted a school photograph of you maybe 5 years ago, one of your high school friends posted a photograph, they'll scan that and match it to you. And then they'll put the details of that high school on your profile. Now you might have your privacy settings all nicely set up so that that kind of information is not disclosed to your friends. But it's disclosed in your profile and therefore it's disclosed to advertisers. Do they ask you? Of course not. You don't even know it's there. Why are they going to ask you? Now what about Amazon? The other one of these companies who is under fire. Amazon are one of the worst, most accused people of corrupt practices, of monopolistic trading. You see, Amazon's website, they can work out which of their products, I mean, of the millions of products these days that they sell, they know which ones are selling the most, which ones are the most popular, which one everyone wants. So what's to stop them creating an Amazon product, an Amazon, the same thing, and putting it on their website as well? Well, that's fine, it's just competing against other products, but they don't just do that. They then start to influence search results, they influence reviews, they influence where other products appear and how they compare. So they're unfairly using their website to benefit their own products. Or these are the accusations that are levelled against them at the moment by the German government and by other European countries. What evidence do we have of this? Well, Google have been fined $9.7 billion by European governments since 2017. 9.7 billion. That's pretty much evidence of some sort of wrongdoing, wouldn't you say? Facebook have multiple lawsuits out against them. Multiple lawsuits. There's one very interesting one. Okay, they were marketing, selling flats or advertising flats for rent. I beg your pardon. They were advertising apartments for rent on Facebook. They were targeted ads. They were targeted by race, by ethnicity, by gender, and by social status. So Facebook and the advertiser were discriminating against everyone else. The US Department of Housing made a case, raised the case, took them to court, and Facebook have subsequently settled that case. But there is a classic example of targeted advertising being used to profile people. Amazon I've already been through, but they're doing the same thing, and they're likely to be fined. Watch this space in the very near future. They're going to be facing some very heavy fines. Unfortunately, due to the bottomless pockets of these people, there's likely to be no resolution to any of this in the near future, because they will just extend on appeal and appeal and appeal. And there is no end in sight at this time for all these legal actions against these companies. There is one interesting development though now, because the next iOS 14 coming out from Apple towards the end of this year is going to give you the option to opt out of ad tracking. Let me explain a little bit about ad tracking. What that means is that each of those iOS devices, so if you've got an iPhone, it has a unique IDFA, ID for advertisers. It's an alphanumeric character. So that ID, when you click on an advert, that IDFA is sent to the advertiser. So if you click on a pair of Nike trainers within a particular app that you're using, your ID is sent back to Nike so that they know whether that advert is working, whether that advert is not working. And the more, obviously, of these IDFAs they receive, the more responsive the ad is. They know they're doing something right. Now that's okay, as long as they cannot tie that IDFA back to you personally and your personal information. Now think about Facebook. Facebook and the hundreds of thousands of advertisers that use Facebook, and all those IDFAs going back from iOS devices to Facebook. Do you think they know who those IDFAs belong to? Of course they do. If you search online on Facebook and you see an advertisement for white trainers with purple laces and you click, when that IDFA comes back to Facebook, they analyse their entire database, okay, for other people who like white trainers with purple laces, and they send them the same advert because they know they must well also probably click on it, and they can analyse it down to that kind of fine detail. So how did Facebook react when they found out that Apple were going to give you the opportunity to opt out as part of a privacy deal? You can now opt out of that, or you will be able to with iOS 14. Well, Facebook will lose approximately $500 million because of this in terms of their revenue. So they said, well, if we're not going to be able to make money out of iOS devices, why should we advertise on them? So now we've got Facebook and Apple fighting each other. We've got the governments fighting the companies, and we've got the companies fighting the governments. Also, when these huge fines, these billions of dollars in fines were placed by European governments on Google, on Facebook. Facebook, I think, were fined $100 million by France. Do you know what the US government did? They threatened sanctions against the European governments. So now we've got governments fighting governments, we've got governments fighting companies, we've got companies fighting governments, and we've got companies fighting companies. Everybody on the internet is at war. And what are they at war about? Your data. Billions and billions and billions of dollars being spent for your data. How much of this comes back to you, the owner of this data? I can answer that. Zip. Absolutely nothing do you make out of all this. My name is Paul Shaw, and I'm making this series of videos to try and help people to take back their privacy and their data on the internet by making use of a series of easily available programs, small software hacks, which you can use on your computer to take back control of your browsing and of your data. Thank you very much indeed for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe. Thanks.